Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where each Tuesday, your host, Rick Sayes, gathers around the mic with outdoor industry entrepreneurs, brand leaders, founders, and enthusiasts to share stories from the backcountry, the startup files, and the retail aisles. Rick's guests offer actionable advice to land your ideal industry gig, grow your outdoor career, or plan your next big adventure. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And now, here's Rick.
Welcome to episode 357 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast and my conversation with Adam Ruggiero from Gear Junkie. We wander all over the place, from how he got connected with Gear Junkie to the piece of gear he feels we haven't quite gotten dialed in yet. Brought to you this month by the Running Event. Hey, Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rick. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation. It was a pleasure to meet you at the Outdoor Media Summit. That was my first Outdoor Media Summit. I can't believe, but it was a blast.
Yeah, it was my first two. I know the organizer, Yoon, and I was pleasantly surprised. I think it was one of the highest quality networking events I've been to.
Yeah, I agree. I talked to a couple of people afterwards and have so much more follow-up from that one event. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I love that as adults we call it networking, when I think really it's sort of like adult daycare. It's just an opportunity to make friends. It just happens to be friends that also have some strategic benefit.
Yeah. And it's a big learning experience for me because I'm new to this whole media side of the thing. You know, I was in sales and product, roles for years. My whole outdoor career was that. And now I started this podcast and now I'm all of a sudden media. I was like, what the hell does a media guy do?
Yeah, I know this is your podcast, but what is your background?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I have been in the outdoor space, since I tell everybody since I was a kid, hunting and hiking and stuff with my grandfather and family. But I got into the traditional outdoor biz, worked at A16. I taught at a sixth grade camp and was working at A16 on the weekends, and then was a river guide on the Kern River. And some friends of mine we started a little outdoor shop in addition to our river guide business, and they said, well, you worked at A16, you have retail experience, why don't you go to the show and buy some stuff? And I was like, okay. I was, worked on the floor. I wasn't a buyer, but went to my first OR show in like 1989 and met the guy. Yeah, I'm old, man. I'm old.
Cool.
It was very fun. And met the guys that were bringing Montbell to the U.S., if you remember that brand.
Yep.
And they hired me as a rep. I was their first California rep. So that's when I got into the traditional outdoor retail side of it, if you will. And from there, just, I went from Montbell to Eagle Creek. I was at Eagle Creek for 10 years, left as I was director of sales when I left there and went to Dana Design. And from Dana Design, went to Lowpro and a couple other things and just worked on the wholesale side of the business forever and then got laid off from Lowpro. I was at Lowpro up in Petaluma for a while. And, by that time I was north of 50 years old and we all knew this thing was coming. They were being sold by a VC firm. So resumes were plastered all over the internet and I was getting no action. And I thought, shit, man, I might be too old. I might be done. And thinking, what am I going to do? So I started the podcast and here I am 5 years later. Yeah. So there you go.
No shit. Can I say shit or is this a
non-shit
podcast?
You can say whatever you want.
Love it.
Yep, whatever you want.
Kick my feet up and let my hair down.
There you go. That's it. Just a conversation. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a great career. It still is. I mean, the beauty of my traditional outdoor wholesale career is it just connected me with so many great people. And as I was doing my 45-minute one-way commute to Petaluma every day from Alameda, I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, Tim Ferriss and Pat Flynn. That's when everything was getting big and, becoming a thing. And I thought, you know what? Should I just copy what Tim Ferriss does and just interview all the great people I know in the outdoor space? And here we are. It's been great.
It turns out, man, we all just love stories.
Yeah, exactly. And we all have so many great stories. As you know, you guys at Gear Junkie tell some great stories and have some great content going there. But yeah, it's just a big old giant, I think it's a big old giant high school thing, right? And we could do the reunion every year at the trade shows and stuff, or ODMS, the media summit like Yoon put on, and it's a blast. It's all a blast.
I mean, I think that's the background of why most of us continue to go, especially considering, I don't know, everything is going digital. the case is always like, do we actually need to meet in person? And it's like, God damn it, yes, we need to meet in person.
Right.
Of course, we can just shuttle emails back and forth, but that's just dehumanizing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing I think the trade shows, and I guess it's just the nature of when you get bought and sold and things, they shift focus. But that's the one common thread over all the years, especially since I've been going, since '89. It's like a high school reunion, and we've all known each other for so many years and have so many stories and adventures, and whether it's from trade shows or adventures we went on together, there's so much to talk about. It's great.
It's funny, and I'm just so used to interviewing people that I automatically think of questions. My first OR was 2015.
Wow.
And
you're a kid.
You'll have to tell me. Well, yeah, sure. But also, I feel like even in just that short period of time, so 2015 to 2022, 7 years, even in that short time, I feel like there was a seismic shift where there is a before time outdoor retailer and then a now time outdoor retailer. And I guess the easy explanation is, pandemic, right? Everything upheaval in all sectors. But I'm not necessarily convinced that is specifically the shift I'm sensing. Like, did you notice it also even up to 2015, or was there something that happened in just these last 7 years?
I think it happened before then. I can't pinpoint the time, but it was a combination of some of the moves, right? All the moves, because moving from, I forget where we went from Reno, but then we ended up in Salt Lake City, and there was some time in Denver. So those always change it. And just the industry, the people change, people move on. Guys like me get older, and there's a new younger group. But there for a while, it just became a little stale. And then I think it was whenever Venture Out started. Venture Out was kind of a new shot in the arm for OR. It was all these traditional booths that everybody wandered around. Then all of a sudden they had this Venture Out space. Scott McGuire was involved in that. I worked with Scott at the Mountain Lab for a while. And that was just kind of a new thing, right? There was something really different at the show this year, these open booths and not these big monstrosities. And you could just wander in and out, and you could have some food. And so that was a big change. And then, like I said, the moves, it just kind of, things evolve. And it also became a little more corporate. I don't know what that means. I don't have a definition for corporate, but it looks a little more buttoned up, not as loose. I mean, you've heard the stories of the ski show in Vegas where the snowboarders, you go down the snowboard aisle and it was like a Linus cloud of smoke. It's like, what the hell's going on down there? That was a different scene. So it just, things change. And I don't know if it's for the better or the worse, but it is different.
Yeah, I guess I wrestle with that just because it's the same refrain, I heard when I was a kid is people who get older, they just resent. They don't get the music. They don't get the trends, right? And just as a microcosm in the industry, I wonder, it doesn't seem, I think you touched on it, doesn't feel as fun or free, or at least in the same way that it was when I first started. There was just an edge to it, right? There was an informality to everything.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you still see bits and pieces of it at specific booths, but it's no longer engulfs the whole show. The whole show used to be that way. And now, even Venture Out now, at the last show I was at, Venture Out seemed a little more buttoned up. It's like, come on, man, let's loosen things up and have some fun. So, I don't know. It's just different.
Yeah. Have you ever had Todd Walton on your podcast?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Long time ago. Yeah.
He and I had just a fascinating conversation. I only just met him shortly before that OMS.
Oh, wow. He's a great guy. He and Shannon are fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. He turned me on to this sort of nebulous nature of the outdoor industry, right? And he asked me, it's like, people always, when I describe my job to people, like, that's a dream job, man. I would love to work in the outdoor industry. And he just kind of shined a light on what is the outdoor industry? What do people mean when they say the outdoor industry? Like, are they talking about, are they a guide? Are they a retailer?
Right.
At what point are you in this nebulous thing that everybody sort of covets? And It was really interesting.
Yeah, he and I have talked about that a lot. I have 2 degrees in outdoor recreation. I knew from early on that I wanted to work outside, outdoors. I mean, I originally went to college to be an architect or civil engineering along those lines and kind of flunked out because I didn't want to take any of those courses. Went to a junior college and found an environmental biology course. And the guy had slides from Glen Canyon before it was dammed, and he was just kind of a hippie guy, you know. And I'm thumbing through the catalog to go back to the university and saw outdoor recreation, and I thought, holy shit, I can get a degree in outdoor recreation? That's it. Mm-hmm. And went on to get a master's, and it's just been fantastic. But outdoor recreation is different than the outdoor industry. You know, Todd's spot on. But I kind of struggle with that in my podcast because it's how do you capture it? Because River Guides is outdoor industry. You're working in the business, as is someone working in the retail side of it. And the trade shows, as we know it, is more the retail wholesale side of it. But there's a whole nother level of activity. I'm really excited to see, you know, the recreation degrees from Oregon State and other places, those people in those programs coming to these events. It was great to see those folks at ODMS.
You know, it's funny because it might be, do you remember, I think it was the first time, I think it was OIA, the Outdoor Industry Association. I think they were the first to take a stab at quantifying the economic impact, right? Wasn't that like 2016, 2017? At the time it was, I'm just going to shoot in the dark. Maybe it was like $800 billion, right? Economic impact, which is, as you start to pull it apart, it is so difficult to draw boundaries around it. But it was an effort to rally and give sort of this quantifiable muscle to the outdoor industry so that we had a seat at the bargaining table. We were thought of when it came to like economic decisions and policy.
Political policy, yeah.
Those are fantastic reasons to do this thing, but it also seems like that weird shift that I'm thinking of might have occurred at that time, right? You can no longer unknow that, right? It was this thing we all sort of took for granted, and it was, sure, there was money moving around and it had an impact, whatever. But once we kind of got our heads around the shape of it, it's like you can't shake that there's money moving everywhere. There's a money element throughout it, and it's neither good nor bad.
Right.
But it definitely is this. It's you hit a level of maturity, and you're no longer sort of that juvenile, footloose, fancy-free thing that you were.
Yeah, it's like growing up as a kid, right? You go to, junior high school and you got some money in your pocket, and you never really know how much, and you don't know what you're spending it on, but I got some money. You get your first job, and it's pretty loose and casual. And then you go to college and get a degree, and then you go get your first job, your real, 9 to 5, 40 hours a week job, and things change. You just all of a sudden grow up, and I think that's what happened to the outdoor industry. It kind of grew up. It got, I didn't want to say maybe grow up is not the right term, but it just became more adult and less teenager. And we had a lot more fun when we were teenagers in all fronts.
Man, I'm not going to lie to you. There's the same little dude voice in my head that there was when I was 12. And
same.
I'm like waiting. I'm like waiting. Like my body aches a bit more, but I'm still waiting for that voice in my head to go through that, that growing up shift. And it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's why I've had so many jobs. I didn't stick with Eagle Creek for 30 years. I was that little young guy running around going, wait, what? No, let's go do this. Let's go do that. And I've always been that way. I get that from my grandfather. That's why I had so much fun with the guy. He just was always playful and always, job's important, but we need to go hunting. We need to go fishing. We need to go hiking, whatever it is. And, I hear you. I'm the same.
That's cool. I think that's the message we got to keep perpetuating as new people come into the industry, and just kind of maybe do an about face, or at least resist some of the commodification that I think is becoming rampant.
Yeah, I tell you, I think it's getting better if from when because having started so long ago and seen the heyday and the play day, if you will, and then you see this morphication, or if it does, is that a word? Morphication? Morphing of.
It is now.
There you go. There you go, folks. Write that down. New T-shirt. But the morphing of the industry to becoming more of an adult, and now it's loosened up again, which is, and it could be an influx of a lot more young people that are coming to the table, which is great.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I really hope so.
Yeah, it's super fun, and it's still a great business. I mean, I wouldn't do anything else.
There are days when it's like, it's just a testament to, no matter what job you do, I think there are days when you wake up and there's similarity to it. You wonder, do I really want to do this? But I swear to God, man, I can't describe my job to anybody and hear the words coming out of my mouth and not be like, good Lord, what a privileged ass I am. I can't think of anything I would rather do.
Yeah.
Good reality check.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you go to work, or basically you stumble down the hall and get to your desk and hop on the phone, and for sure, one of the first 5 calls you have of the day centers you right back up, and it's fun and it's a good time. And I agree with you. Yeah, it's awesome.
I feel that.
Yeah. So I got a couple questions too.
Oh, do you now?
The first one is, it's interesting how you talked early on in your Gear Junkie, bio early on. You've had a love for writing and playing outdoors. How early on is early on?
I think the playing outdoors goes back as far as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I just turned 40.
Okay.
Which I got to tell you, man, that it just, the number comes out of my mouth.
It's
and
a big number.
Feel right.
It's a big number.
My mouth has to make a new shape to say my age.
Yeah.
And then I grew up in a time where, I mean, it's fundamentally different now, but I would just leave the house as a 7-year-old kid
mm-hmm.
and walk down the railroad. Like, I would just go.
Mm-hmm.
No, not with anybody. I was an only child, and no cell phones. There was certainly no way for me to get in touch with anybody if I needed to. It was just this knowledge that I'd go outside, sometimes in nature, sometimes just around the city.
Yep.
But that I would come back. More than likely, I would return. And sure enough, every time I did.
And your parents said, damn, he keeps coming back.
Yeah, no joke. And then writing, I hated writing, to be honest. It was my least favorite thing to do. Now that I think about it, I didn't like school at all. And to this day, I can't look a teenager or preteen in the eye and say, you keep it up, it gets better. Because I think I disliked school on a fundamental level every
mm-hmm.
day through my last day of school. And I graduated college and I took my sweet time doing it. I vowed, I'm done. I'm out. I have jumped through all the hoops I'm supposed to jump through. I am done and I'm not coming back. And so far, I've held true to that. And you did send me, you're like, hey, here's some of the stuff I want to talk about. And I hadn't really thought about why I got into writing. But I did note that it sounds weird, man, but I graduated high school in 2001 in June, and I trotted down I'm from Minnesota originally, and there was no place I wanted to be farther from than Minnesota. So I went to college for my first year in Miami, Florida.
Wow.
And I was going to be a marine biologist, and everything was on track, man. I was going to be a marine biologist, and it's September, and 9/11 happens. And it's my first time away from home. I mean, I am on, with the exception of everybody else at the school, but I have no family, and I've only barely scratched the surface of making new friends.
Wow.
And anybody who lived through that time, like, everything was shook.
Oh,
every
changed
person
everything.
was it was like everybody was sleepwalking, man. Like because from September 11th to September 12th, one day has happened, right? You've gone from Tuesday to Wednesday, but in that Tuesday to Wednesday that has happened countless times before, it was like making conversation with people was more difficult. You didn't know, do I need to go to class? Should I not go to class? Do we talk about it or do we not talk about it? I mean, there wasn't really a fully developed internet to the extent that there was like answers every second. There wasn't Reddit and Google News. It was like we were still sort of waiting for answers or whatever to happen. in that time, one of my first semester classes was a creative writing class, and I don't know, dude, like I just started typing stuff, like typed what I was thinking about. I typed introspections on how different the world suddenly seemed, all this stuff, none of which is really fit for any other human being to read, but it was like this outlet that I kind of naturally sought out to sort out what was going on in my head. And I think ever since then, I've just slowly developed that voice. It's a tool for making sense of the world. That's
pretty cool. Are there any writers in your family?
Probably not.
Interesting.
I got a pretty spread out family.
Yeah. Well, 9/11 changed the world in many ways. I mean, for an older guy like me, all of a sudden, for the first time since World War II, maybe, I don't know when, Vietnam for sure, all of a sudden our security was being challenged, right? And so that was a whole nother level of, I can't just wander down the street maybe anymore and not have a care in the world in America, So it was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a time of, I mean, so many, and it's been said better than I'm saying it a million times before, but like, honestly, suddenly having armed guards in an airport.
Right.
That wasn't a thing. You could go to the airport with somebody and walk with them to their gate if you didn't have a ticket, just so you could hug them and say goodbye. Right. Like that's the way the world was, at least, for privileged Westerners like myself, that's the way the world was on September 10th. And then the next day, everything is different. And you don't know, it's just like the pandemic, right? You don't know how long is it going to be weird like this. And it just slowly sinks in what a new reality is like.
Yeah. And he had flipped it upside down. Yeah. Well, we survived it. That's for sure. At least so far.
And then I became a writer. Yeah. Then I started writing stuff.
Yeah. And so what were you writing? Were you just stuff flowing out? Was it historical? Was it just day-to-day riffing on life? What was it? What were you writing?
Yeah. I think it was mostly self-indulgent tripe. I think it was journaling, a sense of glorified journaling that maybe, I think most people when they write don't journal authentically. Because I never journaled, right? So I think what I mean by that is you start journaling, but it's, some part of you is trying to edit it and polish it and thinking about how someone else would read it instead of saying what you actually need to say. And there's too many fucking adjectives all over the place. That was most of what I was doing, but I followed it. I ended up leaving Miami. I did some continuing education classes outside of a degree program in Minnesota, in Oregon. And in every one I did, I always took a writing class of some sort. And then when I finally decided, I'm just going to bite the bullet and go for a degree, I had to declare a major, and I knew I wanted to travel, and I didn't want to work in a cubicle, and I liked writing, so I picked journalism.
Oh, there you go. That's smart.
That was one of those decisions that was the right decision to make.
That was smart, yeah. Where did the not wanting to work in a cubicle come from? Just because you were a free-range kid growing up?
As a free-range kid, I have two single parents. So my dad is far more free-form, sort of adult hippie, and my mom also very left of center, but she bit the bullet and was like single mom, right? She had a decent paying job. She was kind of on her own to raise me. Did a week on, week off, but she really hit the grind and like set goals. Like, whereas my dad sort of like figures shit out at the last minute, my mom was very much about, here's how we're going to get this done. Here's how I'm going to pay the bills. I'm going to make sure you have presents at Christmas, like that sort of thing. And that required her to set aside a lot of the life maybe she had really, really wanted when she was young to raise me. So she worked a cubicle job, and I witnessed it. And I think on a very profound subliminal level, I realized, holy shit, I love the hell out of her, but I will never, ever do that. I cannot work a cubicle job.
Right. Yeah, I think it was just all the active outside stuff for me. I mean, my parents were both grindstone work. My dad worked hard at a steel mill, and I remember graduating high school, my dad and my grandfather both, taking me out, after graduation, say, hey, we can get you a good job at the mill. Let's go take a tour. And, we went out there for a tour. It's just hot and dusty, and sitting around the dinner table that night and say, okay, what do you think? We can get you out there next week probably. And I looked them both in the eye and said, there's not enough money in the world that would get me to work at that place. It's just horrible. And I admire him now. I didn't maybe at the time, but good God. So,
you mentioned it. If there's one job I would have liked to have had, it would have been river guide.
Oh my God.
That just seems like there's a write-up. There's so much you learn about growing up as a person and meeting people and adventure and safety and responsibility and debauchery. And I really wish I had done that.
That was pretty fun, man. That was probably the 6 funnest years of my life, some of the funnest years of my life. I mean, you're right. And you do learn a lot. And you learn a lot about people because you see, that was my first experience at seeing people not only in the outdoors and being a little trepidatious about what's going on or just being free with it. They just were digging it, to, certain situations where it's like we're a little on the edge here, they see how people handle danger and being scared. It was amazing. And we just had so much fun. Oh my God. Yeah.
I still want to get a raft. I really want to learn.
You should go to guide school. What the hell? It's only a week. Go do it.
It's only a week?
Yeah, probably. Well, I'm sure. Well, the one I went to was a week, 5 days. Yeah.
To take somebody's life in my hands in a boat. I just need a week.
It might be different now, but it was a week when I did it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's even more scary when you know that, right?
I mean, heck, why not? I decided I'm going to get it sounds like such a stupid midlife thing to do, but I have an opportunity, thanks again to my career, where I can take my motorcycle license, right? I can take that class.
Yeah.
And they'll send me gear, helmet, gloves, jacket. It's amazing. Like it's extraordinary what I have access to and the call them blessings that come along with it. And I'll be damned if I'm not going to take advantage of it.
Hell yeah.
It'd be a waste to not do it. So I am going to get my motorcycle license. Why not get my paddling? What do I get, a certification?
Well, some places, I really don't know. We didn't get a certification when I went. I went because I kind of stumbled into river guiding. I met this guy at the 6th grade camp we were teaching at Palomar Mountain Outdoor School, who was a river guide, and he was going to run this camp in the summer for Kern River Tours up on the Kern Plateau, and he needed some help. And he said, why don't you come and help me run that camp? And I said, that'd be great. He said, well, the only thing is you have to go to guide school because it's a rafting company that owns the camp. And I'm like, okay. So I went to river guide school for a week on the American River and went back and told the guy, sorry, I'm not going to run a camp. I'm going to be a river guide. It was too much fun. And so I stumbled into it. But yeah, there was no certification. You just went, and basically they were showing you all the safety techniques and how they run their camp, how they cook, how they set up and clean up and all those things. But yeah, I'm sure
I got to tell you, man, I've done, and as a media person, we go on press trips, test gear, whatever.
Right.
Nothing makes me more uncomfortable than somebody who is guiding me and looking out for me, who then makes me lunch. It's just something. It's something about the meal prep where I immediately feel guilt. I feel like, just please, you don't have to feed me. On top of everything else you're doing, you really don't have to feed me. I'll just bring my own trail mix. It's just, I can't, every time they do it, I'm like, I feel like such an ass.
I can tell you stories where that was not the case on some people. You expected to wait on them hand and foot. It was,
that's mind-boggling to me. That's mind-boggling.
Pretty interesting. And some of them, I'd get them in the boat and, in the not too dangerous rapids, you could bump a rock a certain way and knock the guy in the river or the woman in the river and say, oh, sorry, here, I got you, just to get them just to have them swim, just because, get out of my raft for the day. For the few minutes.
Because the universe demands balance, Rick.
That's it.
Demands balance.
Yeah, that's it.
And if you're an asshole, you're going to end up in the river.
Yep, that's it. That's what they did. Yep. That was so much fun, though. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, you should go do that. Pretty easy. You're in Chicago, though. You probably have to come out west. You probably have to come to Colorado or California somewhere to do it. But
no, man, I'm in Northwest Arkansas.
Arkansas. Yeah. You could do that there, then. I'm sure they have river
Hell yeah.
schools. Yeah.
I mean, I got to hop off this call. I got to go to river guide school.
Go sign up, and I want to see an email from you and said, hey, I signed up for guide school. That'd be awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So you also mentioned fetch. Tell us about your personal interest in fetch. So I think of fetch.
Oh, yeah.
When I see that, I see somebody playing fetch with a dog. Is it fetch with a dog or fetch with people too? Catch?
Yeah, it's fetch with a dog, but I am jealous. I'm a simple man, Rick. And it's not I'm not saying that facetiously. Like if somebody just wanted to play catch or throw a football, I would run all day long.
Oh, cool.
Right? I would
love it.
It would never get boring for me. Mm-hmm. I play basketball. And like I said, I'm an only child. So I think this is probably on some deep level. I just yearn for somebody to amuse me.
Somebody to play with.
But dude, there don't have to be rules to the game. We don't have to keep score of anything. If it's just an excuse to run around outside, by all means, throw the tennis ball. I'll go get it. I can think of nothing more entertaining.
It's pretty fun. Pretty fun just playing catch. Yeah. I miss those days. I haven't played catch in a long time. We'll have to do that next time.
It's never too late to play catch. Bring your glove.
We should put together.
Next year, we'll just bring our glove.
Yeah, we should put together a catch session at the summit next year. That'd be a blast. Tell everybody, bring your gloves. We're gonna play catch. Take a break.
See what's gonna happen though is everybody's gonna want to stop playing. I'll be like, "Where's everybody going? We're only 2.5 hours in."
Right. That'll happen. No, it'll be fun. That's a good thing to do. And you're also a farmer. What kind of farming do you do?
So let me qualify that.
Are you a farmer or a gardener?
I am not a farmer. I have family and family friends when I was in my early 20s who ran an Angus beef farm in the Iron Range, near the Iron Range in Minnesota.
Oh, wow, cool.
And I would go up there in the summer and I would just help, like anybody who has worked on a farm or been farm adjacent knows there is never not something to do.
Yep.
There's always work to be done. Entropy is real. And when you're managing that much land, there's always something that needs attention or care or fixing. And I would go up there and help out. And man, I got to tell you, I loved it.
Cool.
At least as much as I enjoyed playing fetch. I love fixing barbed wire fence. I love driving skid steer. I drove a bulldozer.
Wow, that's fun.
Looked after cattle, which is a little terrifying, but I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's definitely a goal at some point is to have some sort of small farm that I can look after. Very nice.
So do you get to do that still once in a while, or only when you go visit?
No. I mean, I've since my 20s, I've definitely sort of, I don't know, I just have more and more responsibility, and I find myself farther and farther and farther from the farm. I'm sure I'd be welcome. I just, I don't know. There's so much to do, Rick. There's just so much to do.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I'm running out of years to do it. It's my thing. It's like I got to keep filling them up, man, because
I'm pretty sure our life expectancy is well over 100 now.
Got to be. I hope. Yeah, got to be.
According to science fiction, yeah. This is what all the vitamins were for.
Hey, that's what they told me when they were feeding me that little stick of food that the Apollo 11 astronauts were eating. You're going to live forever, kid. It's like, all right.
That freeze-dried Neapolitan ice cream?
No, this was before that. This was a stick of rubberized, I don't know what the hell it was, but it was like a pepperoni stick, but it was, all the nutrition was in it. Vanilla or chocolate. Yeah, it was weird.
Damn, that sounds good.
I go way back. Yeah. So let's go talk about the Gear Junkie for a bit. How'd you get connected with the Gear Junkie? I don't know much history about the Gear Junkie. I apologize, but
apology accepted.
Did
Rick.
You start it?
No, it was started by a man. Well, shit, if you don't know, I should just say yes. As a matter of fact, I did.
Yes, I did.
No, so the Gear Junkie dates back. Stephen Reginald is the founder. Also, shameless plug for the Gear Junkie podcast. One of the episodes, I interview Stephen, and it goes into the whole history of it.
Oh, cool.
But Stephen, it's funny, actually, Stephen, the founder, my manager, who kind of groomed me, Sean, and I all went to the University of Minnesota journalism school, which was just kind of wild. But Steven met Sean in journalism school. And Steven is, anybody who knows Steven, he's kind of he gets hyper focused, right? And he will see anything through. He'll see it until the end. And he loves adventure racing, loves ice climbing, to fairly extreme activities. And this is back in the early 2000s. Steven landed a gig doing a column that was syndicated in the New York Times called the Gear Junkie, right?
Oh, cool.
So he's slowly but surely developing this brand. And let's say this is between 2008, 2010, I believe. Sort of when all these brands are really starting to pick up steam and outdoor recreation is getting its footing and it's becoming a more and more identifiable entity. He's doing the syndicated column, and at that time thinks, I should probably park this website, right?
Smart.
So he gets Gear Junkie website, and he just starts publishing stuff online. And the timing just couldn't have been better, because this is, as Google is, all these things are maturing. And if you were online at that time, little did you know you're being crawled by search engines, you're gaining page rank authority. Like as everything matures, you're setting yourself up to really ride that wave, and that's exactly what he did. So yeah, the long-ish version is that I was a coffee roaster, and I loved everything about the coffee industry. I was a hipster. I had a fixed gear bike, still do. Got really into coffee roasting and did that about as far as it could take me. And at some point I was probably mid-late 20s, and I could see that I'd reached the kind of a height of where coffee roasting can take you.
Did you have a coffee brand, or you're roasting for somebody else, or how did?
I was roasting for this entity called Dunn Brothers Coffee. They're still around.
Oh yeah, okay.
I was there sort of in their heyday when they had over 100 stores across something like 8 or 9 states or something. I don't know. I think they've shrunk a little bit now, but their whole shtick was they had a coffee roaster in every store.
Oh, okay.
So I did that, and I just got to a point where I'd gone as far as you could go, and I needed I'd get to a point, and I need to do something that I'm not good at. I need to shake things up a bit. So I quit my job and moved to Hawaii, and decided I would take my knowledge of coffee and work on a coffee farm.
Oh, cool.
And because I'm sort of a shameless promoter, I convinced my then girlfriend and 2 of our friends to quit their jobs and move with me, so I didn't have to do it by myself. Anyway, did that. That part turned into a stint in Puerto Rico, where I did more sort of like just living sort of hand to mouth, right? Like you meet somebody needs help doing something, they feed you, you help them do a thing, and did that for about a year, and came back to the States unemployed, and really just came back to like, I'm not ready to get another job. I don't want to clock in someplace. And for the first time since I'd graduated college, I decided to give the writing thing a try, because I really hadn't vested any time in it. All the newspapers died while I was in newspaper journalism school. And I decided, I got nothing to lose. I'll just try writing some stories, and kind of cobbled together a freelance career. And when you freelance, anybody who's listening that either is considering starting writing, or is currently employed but maybe wants to dabble in freelance, it's not guaranteed success. But if you're persistent and you're flexible and you're good at getting feedback from people and promoting yourself, but also maybe taking a few hits and acknowledging that, you could be better at X, Y, or Z in your writing. If you just work at it and you keep those relationships going, you'll build and build and build and build. And that's what I did. I wrote for as many different places as I could, and Gear Junkie, Steven, paid me on time, which is a huge plus for a publication.
Yeah.
Paid me on time. And an opening came up. They were hiring for their first news writer. So I applied and didn't get the job.
Oh, wow.
Which was
interesting.
But they tried it with somebody. That person moved on from the position, and they came back to like, well, shit, we need a news writer. So I signed on, and from my vantage point, me working with Sean and Steven and the crew of people that were there, like Kyle and Jake, and anybody who knows Gear Junkie knows those names. It was just the right mix of people, and we just took off.
That's cool.
It was awesome.
That's very cool. That's the way it was for me at Eagle Creek in the early days. It was the right mix of people. Same with Montbell when we brought Montbell to the U.S. This is that initial collection of people, just willing to do whatever it takes. You're burning the midnight oil and up early, and that's awesome. Good for you. That's cool.
It should be a lesson to any manager out there to just that special, that secret sauce. Like, yes, you can extract value from a hardworking, efficient team. That's all well and good, but it when you have it, where there is just this click, right? Like people, you tell the right jokes, you provide stress relief, you're angry at each other in the right way, right? Like you can handle critical feedback, you trust the people to get their shit done. It's just, you find yourself, like you said, working late, and you're
the shit gets done, and next thing you know, it's midnight.
Yes. So
and you don't have
highly
to
encourage that.
Yeah, you don't have
find that. Hold on to that.
Right, find it, and if it's not, and you don't have to extract anything from them. It's all just there. It just happens. Exactly. It just evolves. Yeah, no, that's well said. Yeah,
that's real.
We're going to take a little break and give some love to our sponsor, the running event. I'll be heading to Austin, Texas this November 29th through December 1st for the running event, and I hope you'll join me. If you're unfamiliar with the running event, also known as TRE, it's an annual conference and trade show that brings together performance brands like Brooks, Hoka, and Garmin with local running stores from across the U.S. and even globally. It's a great opportunity for these brands and retailers to connect and check out the new products. What I'm really excited about, though, is that this year, TRE is expanding into the outdoor industry with a brand new space called Switchback. I'm going to let TRE event director Christina Henderson share a little more.
Hey, thanks, Rick. I'm glad you'll be joining us at TRE this year. So obviously, the running event has always been really focused on running retailers and brands. But especially over the last few years, we're seeing the lines blur between run and outdoor industries. Trail running and hiking have grown tremendously, and we're seeing companies like Ultra and Nike putting a lot of focus into their trail lines. TRE has always had a lot of brands that sell into outdoor specialty, but Switchback marks the first time we're truly dedicating a space at TRE to connect run and outdoor specialty.
Well, I'm looking forward to checking it out this year. If you're interested in heading to Austin for Switchback at TRE, you can find the link to registration in the show notes and use code OutdoorBizTRE. That's OutdoorBizTRE for special discount pricing. And if you're curious about exhibiting at the event, reach out to Christina. Her email is chenderson@divcom.com. That's CHENDERSON. And that'll also be in the show notes. Now let's get back to the show. So these days, what's a typical day at Gear Junkie look like, if there is such a thing? Now you guys are you're not all in one place, correct?
Oh no, post-pandemic, man, we are spread far and wide, literally coast to coast. Typical day at Gear Junkie depends on which one of us you ask.
I'll bet, yeah.
I'm editor in chief now, so I don't write nearly as much as I'd like. I've learned. I have a lot of respect for every manager I've ever had now that I'm managing people. So my day is I sign in. We have a newsroom. I scan. Well, let's be real. All right. I wake up slow. I let my dogs out. I immediately start making coffee. My
coffee's made. I can't get up without having the coffee there. I just can't do it.
Oh, Rick, are you doing like the automatic coffee machine thing?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. But it's fresh roasted coffee. There's a guy here in town. My day job is managing their promotional products business, but he also has a coffee roasting business. So I get great coffee from him. So it's not as bad as you think. It's good coffee.
If anybody takes anything away from this podcast, I think what I hope it is that there is an open channel to me if you ever have coffee questions, I will answer them.
Cool. All right.
I want to elevate everybody's coffee experience, because once you've had really good coffee, the ritual of it, the flavor of it, it just, you'll never, and believe me, I know how I sound. I know how pretentious it sounds.
Yeah, but coffee's pretty simple, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be that elaborate and expensive. So it can be very simple.
It doesn't. And it's so cultural. Like as much as I enjoy drinking coffee in the morning, the making coffee, like just, you know what it is? I remember you asked me a question, and I'll get to it at some point, but
no worries.
I had a buddy who worked at a bank, and he smoked forever, right? Smoked cigarettes. And I've never smoked cigarettes, never picked it up. And at some point I reconnected with him after years, and he told me he'd quit smoking. And I was like, Josh, that's incredible.
It's huge, yeah.
You must be so happy. And he just looked at me, he's like, yeah, not really. And I was like, what do you mean not really? You've added 5 to 10 years to
at least,
lifespan.
yeah.
I was like, what is there to not be proud of? He's like, honestly, dude. And he wasn't the most social guy in the world. And he said, honestly, man, it's not that I miss smoking. I just miss smoke breaks. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, because he worked at Wells Fargo, I think. And he said, I could get up from my desk and go walk outside and just let my mind, nobody asked. I didn't have to have a reason. Nobody hassled me. And I could just let my mind wander. And if somebody came up to me and asked for a light, I'd engage with this new human being. It wasn't awkward. Maybe we chat about stuff, and we had this shared experience of just unplugging from the matrix for about 5 minutes. And I was like, holy shit, I want to smoke just so I could have a smoke break.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that's the ritual of coffee.
That is the ritual of coffee. It's like, shit can't touch me until I've finished making coffee.
Yeah.
And it's understood, right? Like I could be late to work, but if I tell people I'm making coffee, there's this grace extended.
That's
right? It's like, yes, I too know what it is like to be a human being. Please make your coffee, and then I will yell it.
You get a pass. Exactly. Yeah.
So my day starts with making coffee, and then it is a scan of the media landscape. There are outstanding reporters all over, and I am proud to be in the mix, right, with reporters that are stellar. People whose bylines are on Gear Junkie now are more hardworking than I was, and I am stunned they want to take direction from me, but they are as good as anybody out there. And I hesitate to call anybody the best, because I know everybody's hustling, and it's everywhere. But if we focus on the outdoor industry, there's just so many good outlets and good people busting ass to break stories, tell cool stories, give shit to readers that want to know about what's the best puffy jacket, or what's happening with public lands. Like, there's any number of stories going on. I know everybody's working really hard. So I scan the landscape. I see what other people are doing. I check, my staff has questions, right? Somebody needs an emergency edit. There are ethical or moral questions around how to word something that I weigh in on. There are questions of, hey, is this worth our time, or should I not do it? Or nowadays it's, so-and-so, we agreed on this rate, but their story is 500 words over. Can we bump up their rate a little bit? And all those calls, I start my day doing that. And then at a certain point, I kind of have to reconsolidate I answer what I can in the morning, and then I have to pull back because the machine starts taking off, and I need people to kind of manage the day to day. And then I step back, and then I've got people smarter than me asking me to be on their podcast. So I take time to schedule that. Hearing from brands pitching, me delegating, pushing to other people. And somewhere in it, I will just shut the computer for an hour to an hour and a half, and I'll pick up this package that arrived. I'll open it, and I'll try and break a piece of gear.
Cool.
And if I can't break it, I'll see if anybody else has received one. And if not, I'll be like, well, shit, I'm going to write this up in a couple of weeks because it's great because X, Y, or Z.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That sounds like a great day. It's awesome.
See, this is what I'm saying is when I describe this to people, it's like, yeah, sure, I get stressed about stuff. There are days I don't particularly enjoy my job, but then I tell somebody, I hear it come out of my mouth and I'm like, good Lord, if I'm not satisfied with my job, I must be doing something wrong because the job itself is pretty friggin' cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're pretty fortunate to be in the outdoor space. I mean, you and I probably talk to people about this all the time. The outdoor, I don't care if you're a river guide or an editor or a podcaster. I mean, all the conversations we have around what we do and how we do and when we do and why we do, it's just so much fun, I mean,
yeah.
We're playing with adult toys and adult recreation opportunities, and not in the adult space. It's in the outdoor space, and it's just fun.
It's an unpopular opinion maybe, but I do think there's too much gear.
I agree. Yeah.
Too many doodads, too many different packs, too many different riffs on pants. And I had a really great conversation with someone in the industry, and I ask everybody because right now everybody wants to talk sustainability, right? Like we're made from this many recycled plastic bottles, and it's becoming a refrain that people tune out, right?
Yep.
It went from something that was exceptional marketing, like, hey, we do this, nobody else does this, and now if you don't do it, the only reason to say you're doing it is to identify that there are people probably not doing it. When you could use recycled plastic for your synthetic material, there's somebody using virgin petroleum products for theirs. And I guess it's a little bit better to choose the recycled one. Point being is I asked this person, why, if sustainability is really so important, why, couldn't you just make the thing you've made forever and people like, couldn't you just keep making that? And he's like, yeah, I could. But honestly, there's pressure from guys like you. You're always asking, what do you have that's new? What do you have that's this? And I'm like, thank you, because I was always worried. It felt like if I just keep asking for the newest, latest thing, there's this implicit pressure it places on brands or PR people to come up with something, to have a good answer to that question. And I could defend it by saying, well, readers demand new shit, but I don't know to what extent that vicious cycle is real versus
I would push back on that a little bit. I'm not sure that we are all consumers or us in the space are asking for a new one of those. Right?
Exactly.
I've got, again, being in the industry as long as I've been, and I have some products around this house that are old as dirt, but they still function. They still do the job. There's nothing wrong with them. I don't need a new one. And I think what's happened as we've evolved and become, it's back to that corporate thing. We've got to hit the weekly number, the monthly number, the whatever. And in order to do that, I need more of those. Well, maybe we don't need to hit that monthly or weekly number. Maybe we need to take a step back and look at that and reevaluate that, because we're just filling the world with shit.
You asked what my job is, and I would say my job, when I'm not putting out a daily fire, my job is exactly that. I'm like, we have to tell better stories, because right now we're in the habit of looking for new stuff and telling new stories. What's new, and taking a back seat to, the world's on fire. There's all this scrap happens at this and this brand. And I don't think we're quite out of the box enough in our storytelling to be like, well, shit, dude, here, this thing is dirty and it's cracked and it still works and I love it. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing I would recommend you buy, because you should crack it. It'll still work. It should be dirty. It shouldn't be shiny. It shouldn't be new, and you should never buy another one.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. So let's stay on the gear path. Is of all the gear that you've reviewed, is there one item where you think, or it sounds like there's multiple items where you think, geez, don't we have enough of these already? Do I really need another one of these?
Yeah, dude, I would say backpacks. And I say that because when I first started at Gear Junkie, Kickstarter was this trove of fun, wacky, cool shit. Yeah. And it was to be honest, it was a great place. It's the Cotopaxies of the world, and there are other brands, maybe Peak Design, that took a chance on Kickstarter and blew the hell up. Yeah. Right? Like we're legitimately different than what other people were doing.
Yeah, the product was different. Well. Right. Kickstarter was just the avenue. The product was what drove the bus there. Yeah.
Rick, the number of emails I get that are some take on, the world's perfect pack didn't exist, so we built it. And it's like, no, asshole, you built a pack for you.
Right.
Like, you're not thinking. There are so many different packs out there, and so many people I know have a JanSport, right?
Yeah.
Saying nothing ill of JanSport, it works. It's a pack. It's recognizable. People, you make all these fun pockets where pens go here and your phone goes here. People may or may not use those pockets for that purpose. People like me, for example, I'll throw a bunch of shit in one pocket and I'll just rummage for it. And I know there's better ways to be organized, but damn it, that works for me.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
There are enough packs out there that we don't need new packs. The shit has been figured out. It's pretty basic, but the number of pitches I get that are riffs on a pack, it is mind-boggling, and it's all unnecessary.
Yeah, there's a lot of packs. I spent my life making packs. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah. What? Let's flip the coin on that. Is there a product you feel we still haven't got quite right?
Is there a product that we haven't gotten quite right?
I'm sure there's something new that we don't know we need yet. That's just part of evolution and design and creativity. But something that there's, 57 of these and nobody's got it right yet.
Dude, that's a good one. God, I remember when you shot me some questions ahead of time, and I remember I had to think about this one, and I could have sworn I came up with one. The hell was it? Son of a bitch.
Well, when it comes to you, we'll just throw it out there. Or send me later if we wrap up and we haven't got it yet. I can always put it in the show notes.
Yeah, open a new tab and let that one load in the background.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it'll occur to me.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So let's go back to the Outdoor Media Summit. I sat in that presentation that you, Rachel, and Tim gave on pitching. Do you have any tips, 3 tips for listeners on pitching editors on a gear review or an idea for a gear review that you always say, hey, you know what? Thanks for your comments. Here's what I'm looking for in a pitch. Do you respond to people that way, or?
I would say the first, the 3 tips I would give are read the publication you're pitching, read the publication you're pitching, and read the publication you're pitching.
That's good.
It is so important and overlooked, I think. You may have read a review on Gear Junkie and you're like, oh shit, I want to review gear. I should pitch them something. Believe me, I get it, man. Like everybody that's a writer is also a consumer of media, and it takes time. And I know people are eager to start testing gear and writing it and getting paid and having their byline. I get it, dude. It's a rush and it's good, but it goes so far for you to have a sense of your audience before you even start writing. And the only way to do that is to read the publication. Find articles you agree with, find articles you don't agree with. Understand, get to the point where just the rhythm and cadence, somewhere there's an editor shaving the edges off of anyone's piece so that it fits this voice that is the publication. If you just read it, you'll have a sense of it.
Right.
And if you know that going into it, one, when you pitch me, you're going to know, has anybody else written about this in recent memory, right? Like if you check the website, you'll know what we have and haven't done. So I'll be confident that you know that. You'll know you'll be in the ballpark as far as length and pacing and what the story needs to include as far as specs and when you're reviewing something, how you should review it. The other tips, if it's not a cop-out answer, read the publication. The second one is think about it in terms of a headline. And this is a skill. It's definitely a skill. It's not an inborn talent. It's hard to think of things in terms of headlines. But if you start to think of a headline, it gives you an angle. It gives you your hook, right? Because if you just wrote sort of this belched out, what the specs are on this boot and how I reviewed it and it felt comfortable, that's super uninteresting. Nobody's going to dig that. And you could just go to the website.
You can see that. Yeah, exactly.
Specs.
Yeah.
But if you think of a headline, the headline is, what would you click on? Like, what about this boot is so worth somebody's time that they're going to stop scrolling and click on it? What did you discover? Most comfortable boot in the world. Or I walked across a lava field and these boots help. Something like, what is your hook? What is the thing that this did that makes it noteworthy? Because otherwise, a boot or a glove or a coat or even headphones, not that fucking interesting.
Yeah.
There's a million different options.
Yeah.
But if you can pinpoint the reason this one is cool, don't ask me if I think it's cool. That'd be my third thing, is don't ask me if I want a review of something. Tell me why I want a review of it.
Right.
Like, that kind of goes to the headline. But when you're pitching, so many people that pitch me ask, hey, do you want a review of such and such? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not here to counsel you. You're here to tell me why this is a fit for my publication. Like, craft a pitch, make it a pitch. Know that it's a pitch. And number 4, even though you didn't ask for it, number 4 is be a human being and understand that there's a human being reading that email, right? Like, don't honestly just cut the bullshit.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the right way to pitch. Just include some basic things and make it a flawed pitch. Talk to the person you're sending it to, not like it's Gear Junkie, but like there's an editor, there's a person reading it. Be like, hey, I think this is a cool idea. This is my headline. This is why I think it's a fit. But I'm open to feedback. What did you think about this? Don't worry about it being a perfect pitch. Just nail those things and write it like you're writing for a person.
Yeah, I think you led off your presentation with that. I think that's the number one thing. Just talk to me, right? Don't talk to the magazine. Don't talk to the podcast. Talk to me, because we're going to hit it off before you even have a fighting chance of getting anything on the show or in the magazine or reviewed. So no, that's you nailed it.
Also, if it's any consolation for folks, I would say, as an editor, I would rather receive 10 pitches from you and say no to 9 of them than receive 1 pitch and say yes. So I want to know that you're thinking about a whole bunch of different things, because you could send me 1 pitch and I might say yes, but I don't have much of a sense of who you are, what you're into. But if you email me and you've got a bunch of ideas and you're working on them,
right.
It's easy for me to say no. It's no skin off my ass. It takes 2 seconds for me to type NO period, right? And most of the time I'll give you some feedback on why I said no, but at least you gave me something to consider. You got me thinking. I'd rather have options to say no to than just one option. Right.
No, that's well, and that shows me that you're doing other things. You're not just a one-hit wonder. And I may not go to you for any of these, but down the road I may call you back because this guy sent me 10 things. I know he's got an idea about this. No, that's well
and
said.
No is okay.
Yeah,
no is perfectly okay.
Yeah, don't be afraid of no. Right. So let's shift gears and talk about your podcast. How'd that get started?
I am a glutton for attention. I'm honestly, Rick. I mentioned Steven and Sean and them helping me get started. I will take 100% full credit for the podcast.
Good.
The podcast as an idea, the execution of the podcast. Katie is my producer. Jordy is my engineer. Before that, there was a guy named Bjorn and a guy named Kurt. So many people had.
Jeez, I'm a one-man band. You're lucky, man.
Well, I am so lucky because they're all more intelligent and talented than I am. I'm too stupid to be worried about how I sound on a microphone. So I don't mind parading myself out there and interviewing people. But I think you touched on it earlier. Podcasts that's how I like to consume information.
Yep.
I read and edit all day, so I do get a little fatigue when it comes to picking up a book at the end of the day.
Yep.
Podcast, man, there's just something about it. I go out to, like right now, I've got a yard with a pile of leaves. I can't wait to turn on a podcast and just listen, let that information and that conversation happen in my ears while I rake and put leaves away. Like
exactly.
That's so much fun for me.
Yeah, you just made the point of podcasting. I mean, I tell everybody that in my coaching and when I'm selling coaching and sponsorship and whatnot, working on partners. It's like people can't always read your blog post. I can't, I'm skiing, I'm hiking, I'm working in the yard, I'm driving. I can't read or watch your YouTube channel. I can listen to your podcast all the time. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. I can listen to your podcast.
So good. So true.
Yeah. Yeah, 24/7, 365. Stick an earbud in, and it'll work.
I listen to a podcast every day, man.
Yeah,
and I'm always open to suggestions.
Yeah,
Always
I do too. My commute got short, and I had a 1 hour one-way commute there for a while. Oh, I told you about in Alameda, but now it's 10 minutes, and I don't get as many podcasts in as I'd like. But
if I would recommend the Memory Palace. If you haven't listened to the Memory Palace, that's fascinating.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, there's so many good ones out there now. It's incredible. Has it helped your work?
Yeah, in the sense that it's given me another tool in the Gear Junkie arsenal. For the same reason that Alex Honnold, right? So they could do a story about Alex Honnold, but there's lots of stories about Alex Honnold. But if I can get him on the podcast, that will reach. I think it just enhances the breadth of an audience that I can reach, right? And so for me, it's like, and I like writing, but it is. It's a facet of an interaction, right? Writing about an interview is compelling in its own right, the same way I think a black and white movie is compelling in its own right? It isn't a full depiction of what happened, but it has a style to it. And it is what it is. A podcast, a conversation with these people, there's so much nuance that I get to convey.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're not supposed to, but nobody writes the way they speak. And they shouldn't, because there's a lot of like weird uhs and ums.
Yep.
But the chuckles, just the little pieces that really humanize these larger than life personalities, that I think that's what it allows me to do, to tap into.
Yeah. You just said on the second thing is your voice is your superpower. You can't write the same way you talk because nobody can hear your inflection or your excitement or your trepidation the way your voice communicates it. And oftentimes you can't even control it. It just comes out. I was excited and I just started vomiting these words because I was having so much fun, So yeah, no, I'm with you. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've done that on this pod. You might have to go back and adjust the levels because nobody could see me. We're not on video, but for all the world, I look like I'm giving an impassioned speech.
It sounds like it. It's awesome. It's coming through.
Around.
Yep, I love it. Yep. No, that's why I do it. I love it. Yep. And I don't have any, when I first started this, again, I think I got Tim Ferriss, sorry, man, I just ripped you off, man. I am copying what he did. I have no time limit. I'll talk to anybody. The only thing is it's got to be outdoor related. And the questions just get us going. We wander all over the place. That's what I love about it.
Oh, dude. I would love to have a produced podcast where I had sound effects and shit, but it would be somewhat contrived for me because I don't think that way. I just love dragging everyone down to my level.
Or up to your level. Yeah, no, I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you enjoy the interview part of it the most, or just figuring out what you're going to say? What do you love the most about it? Or the conversation? For me, it's the conversation. Just it's so great.
So the way I conduct my podcast is no joke. I have a beer or a glass of wine, and I'm not advocating anybody drink alcohol. I'm just saying that me personally,
it works.
You get a glass of wine in me, and it is. I don't have a whole lot of inhibition in the first place. Like our conversation now is certainly not dissimilar from what it would be on my own podcast, but I don't know, man, that one, I encourage my guests, crack a beer, whatever, just like we are meeting for happy hour after work. That's what I want this.
Oh yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that.
And I just love that, there's always nobody on my podcast for the most part has ever met me. They may know about Gear Junkie, but nobody's ever met me for the most part. And it is probably, I think what I enjoy is that minute 10, minute 15, 15 minutes and maybe 20 minutes after you've gotten some questions out of the way, they start to relax into, am I going to be interrogating them? And I usually crack some joke or whatever.
Right.
And you just, the color and the pace and the tone of the conversation goes from interview, and it sinks a little bit into conversation. It becomes a little bit more And I'll use Alex Honnold as an example, even though I have had so many great guests, but Alex is widely recognized by most people, and I think somewhat idolized, right?
Yeah.
And I'm right there with everybody. I also saw Free Solo. Like I get it. But you get to a point in a conversation where it's just like, like, holy shit, like he's larger than life, but he's listening for he's interested in what I'm going to say next. And we're kind of having that volley back and forth the way two old friends would. And it's so cool. It's so cool when that happens because, one, it humanizes this person because Alex, I don't think necessarily wants to be an idol. He's a human, like everybody is.
Yeah, he puts pants on one leg at a time, like the rest of us, yeah.
Yes, and then as an interviewer, it's like, oh, yeah, I do deserve to have this conversation. I'm cool, too.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah. No, I think that's true for me, too. I haven't met most of my guests lately. I would say early on in the show, I met most of them because I was just interviewing connections from the space. But lately, there's probably, I bet over half of them I've never met. It's so much fun to engage in these conversations, and you never know. Like I tell everybody, I just put these questions down to get us going. We may go completely off topic, and I'm fine with that. Whatever.
I dig
just
that.
Talk. Yeah, I don't care.
People. That's the thing is, everybody tunes into conversations at some point, right? Like the thing I like about camping is that there is no better conversation starter than a fire, right?
Yeah.
Inevitably, you will sit around a fire for hours and the conversation will, at certain points, it'll just die down. Everybody sits next to each other in perfect quiet without feeling awkward. And then randomly, spontaneously, the conversation starts and people just, and you could just have this conversation and chime in here and there or bow out. And it's so compelling. And to capture some sense of that on a microphone so that people are just listening in as though, me and somebody are just hanging out at a campfire and you're just quietly listening in. Like it's compelling on a really basic level.
Yep. I love it. Yeah. And next thing you know, the sun's coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So what other outdoor activities do you participate in? Do you get out and play with all the stuff people send you a lot?
Yeah, I will say there's too much stuff. If anybody on the PR side is listening, I have too much stuff. And if I haven't played with your product yet, I will soon enough.
Yeah, got you.
I grew up as a big fan of ball sports. So I play basketball.
Me too.
I play everything. My friend Yoon, who organizes the Outdoor Media Summit, and I'm sure you have met, he's trying to get me into fly fishing.
Oh, yeah.
So I've tried that. I enjoy the activity of fishing more than I like catching the actual fish.
Oh, then you'll love fly fishing. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the trying to match the hatch and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And what he knows, for my birthday, he's a sweetheart of a man. Everybody should meet Yoon Kim at some point.
Good dude. Yeah. I got to get him on the show.
He got me a fly kit, right? So he's talking about how these little white flies, they look like dead because in the water, when you're dead, your belly up and your white belly shows. So these little white flies, they look like little dead things. So things that want to eat dead stuff will go for that. And the black ones look more like, I don't know, like they're alive and they're skittering. And he's going off. And I'm like, I'm not retaining any of this, Yoon. He is as excited talking about fly fishing as I am talking about podcasts.
Yeah, I didn't know that about him. That's good to know.
But yeah, I do all of it, man. Mountain biking. Like I said, I'm in Northwest Arkansas, and I got to tell you, it is remarkable. It's remarkable what they've done here. There's just trails everywhere.
Oh, very cool.
So biking, running. Honestly, I'm into boxing.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was like the first thing I ever did for exercise as a kid is I picked up my dad's old gloves and hung a heavy bag. And when I was 16 and had testosterone off the charts, I just blew off steam, hitting a heavy bag and then practice. And now it's like my preferred way to get exercise if I need to.
Interesting. Yeah. I did the same thing, but played football and wrecked my knees. So that's,
tackle football. My dad never let me play tackle football.
Smart. Good for him. Good for you.
Really?
Well,
I resented it for so long.
Well, yeah, it's just one of those. I loved it. I still love it today. I mean, I've had both knees operated on, I don't know how many times, and it compromises my hiking these days. But I still love it, as much pain and suffering as it's caused me. And I only played through high school. I would love to play college, but wasn't big enough. And by that time, my knees were wrecked. So, yeah.
I'm so jealous, man. I never got to put on the helmet and stand on the sideline. I would have loved it.
It was fantastic, and I went to a high school that was pretty good. We my junior year, again, I wasn't playing that year because my knees were banged up, but we went to the CIF Southern Section Championships and played in Anaheim Stadium. Didn't win, but we were there, at that level, and it's amazing. Yeah,
man, that's so cool.
And the team, I think the other thing too is it really. Ball sports like that really build teamwork, right? You have to know and love your neighbor on the line or the guy that's going to block for you as you're going through the line because we all work together to do this thing, and that's what I really loved about it. Still love about that today. Yeah.
Damn, I'm going to cry.
It was fantastic. So as we get to the finish here, do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into the outdoor biz?
Well, let me start with this. There's one question. I still don't know what the piece of gear is that we haven't gotten quite right.
Oh, okay.
And I'm still thinking,
good.
You know what it was? I actually did remember. That never works. I can't believe it came to me.
Awesome.
Yeah, the bicycle seat.
It's good. Yeah.
Bike saddles, for the life of me, it can't be that hard, right? And I get that I love cycling. Like I did alley cat races. I did track racing. I love biking.
Yeah.
That said, I defy you to find anybody who doesn't experience some numbness or pain or ache. Yeah. And I know everybody's tried and there's different variations on it, but you cannot be that hard to make a saddle or a device that gives you the control, support, and comfort that it seems like every bike saddle lacks.
That's a really good one. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah, that's and how many years have we been working on it? I haven't shopped for a bicycle lately, but I'm sure it's the same saddle.
It's like they just mailed it in, man. They just quit. They quit. Like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, well, maybe they spent so much time and energy and money on the rest of it that just put that old fucking seat on it and let's go.
No, there's one thing I wanted to point out. It was in one of your questions. It was I think it was about, is there a piece of gear that people should get or something affordable or something along those lines? Like, is there a piece of gear that's not that's even like overlooked?
That's coming up next. Like that? Yeah, that's coming up next.
Well, can I skip to it now?
Sure. What is your favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
Costs $20, Rick.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon. It's probably at Menards and Home Depot. It's $20. Get a pair of welding gloves.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
I swear to you, if you've ever been around a campfire and you see somebody, like it starts to die out and somebody starts poking at it with a stick and it falls the wrong way. Dude, I bring these on every trip, and every time I do, people look at me like I'm an idiot. Like I've got 3 heads.
Yeah.
And as soon as that fire starts dying down and I put these welding mitts on and you start moving these hot
you reach right into there.
Reach right into the fire, man. It's the coolest thing. Go up to your elbow. It's the coolest thing ever. And sure enough, everybody's like, hey, can I borrow those gloves? I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Can, but you should have. You made fun of me like 20 minutes ago.
There you go.
Yeah, get yourself. They're cheap as hell, and you feel like a superhero. You're just moving hot logs around. It's great.
And that's great advice for any of you retail buyers out there in outdoor stores. Start stocking welding gloves.
Yeah, dude, brand them, man. Campfire gloves.
Right. Reach right into the fire.
This is my retirement, Rick. Don't publish the episode.
Okay.
This is how I'm gonna hit it.
I'll erase all this. I'll take it out. Oh, that's a good one. Nobody's ever said that one. That's a great one. And you're spot on. I mean, that's, how many times have we sat around the fire with sticks and rocks and grabbing things and dropping them? And yeah, perfect. So advice. Let's get back to the advice. What advice do you have for folks wanting to get into doing what we do?
Yeah, man. We started this podcast, right? Talking about networking in the Outdoor Media Summit. Mm-hmm. Some people listening have the good fortune of knowing somebody in the industry. Mm-hmm. I would say make your desire or intention known to them. You have no idea. Somebody knows somebody or somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. And that's all it takes.
Yep.
And most people like to help people out. They feel like it feels good to be part of the reason you got what you wanted, right? So if I can tell Rick, hey, my buddy Mike here is looking to get a job in the outdoor industry. Do you happen to know anybody, any positions? If that leads to something, I get some of that credit, right? And I think that's why people like it. And they're also probably good people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the community piece too. Yeah, we just all want to add to the community. Yeah, share it. Yeah.
So one, if you have that benefit of knowing somebody that is in or adjacent to the industry you want to be in, just let them know and ask for some help. And then two is if you don't happen to know anybody, ask. Like we said, dude, there's a human being at the other end of every email.
Yep.
Unless, I don't know, it's a Russian troll farm or something like that. But if it's a reputable source, there's a human being that's going to be on the receiving end of that email. So just ask, say, hey, like, honest to God, if you emailed me, Adam@GearJunkie.com, and you're like, Adam, I just graduated college and whatever. One, I'm probably going to be really busy and won't get to it right away, but I'll see it and I'll make a reminder to check in on it. And then maybe 3 days later, after I finished work, I'll have a glass of wine. That reminder will pop up. I'll be like, all right, I'll read this kid's email. I'll open it up. And if you're asking for help, I'll do the same thing. I'll be like, good to meet you. If you want to write for Gear Junkie, do this, this, and this. Otherwise, I'll ask around and I'll pass your contact info to somebody that can do better than me. And that reminds me, I did that in high school. I emailed National Geographic. At the time, I thought I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer because I took a black and white photography course in high school.
Yeah.
And I swear to you, Rick, somebody at National Geographic responded to a 17-year-old's email.
Wow.
And he or she just laid out, honestly, it's very competitive. The odds are not great, but the people who have taken photographs for us, they have this type of background. They do this type of thing. We have this and this editor. And it was somebody took the time to think about it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they emailed me back, and that has 100% stuck with me, that somebody gave a shit enough to send me that, because it showed me, holy God, that's way more work than I want to do at this point in time.
Yeah.
But also that if they could have so easily, and National Geographic is orders of magnitude bigger than Gear Junkie. And the fact that somebody took that time when they could have just ignored it, and it would have been fine if they had, I would have lost it, but it would have created a barrier, right? It would have been like, for whatever reason, I do not fit with that culture or that industry that didn't respond to me. I'm not worthy of that time. I'm probably not cut out for it. I'm going to go work in a cubicle. But they didn't do that. They took the time to entertain my request and talk to me like a peer, like I did belong, like I did have a shot. And that's true. If you just avail yourself, there is a human being on the other end. And I can't promise you every single one of them is going to respond, but you don't know until you try.
Yeah.
And most people want to help. So if you send an email and you're like, hey, this is the job I want to do. You have the job I want to have. How do I get there? I'll respond. I mean, it might take me a couple of days, but I'll respond.
Yeah. And like someone on the podcast said too, we're all super busy. I mean, those jobs that we have are just, they're busy jobs. Don't give up. Don't pester us every week, but if you haven't heard from me in a month and a half, send another email. It just means I haven't gotten to it. So yeah, that's awesome. Are you a big reader? Do you have any favorite books that you like to suggest to folks?
Yeah, I do have a I'm going to be vulnerable with you, Rick. I'm going to open up.
Okay.
Oddly enough, for reasons I cannot understand, I thoroughly enjoy motorsports.
Okay.
Couldn't tell you why. I have no history in it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point when I was a kid, I just got into it. And that has tracked throughout my life.
Motorsports is in cars or all cars, motorcycles, doesn't matter?
All of it. I watched Supercross
Gotcha.
in high school.
Yeah.
I've watched NASCAR. I've watched F1. I've watched all of it.
Wow.
So at some point, I found this book. It's called Driving with the Devil. And it outlines the history of NASCAR and motorsports auto racing in the United States, because it comes from bootlegging roots, running moonshine in Appalachia.
Oh, interesting.
It is so compelling and interesting when you hear about the first Model Ts rolling off the line at Ford. It was bootleggers and moonshiners that were the first to take an engine apart and figure out how to make it faster. It's fascinating.
Wow, that's interesting.
It is
a
fascinating read.
Cool. I'll have to pick that out.
Yeah. It would be that one.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we'll link to that in the show notes. Anything else you want to say to our listeners or ask of our listeners?
The Outdoor Biz Podcast is cool. Continue to listen. And if you have extra time in your podcast consuming headspace, the Gear Junkie podcast, I cannot recommend highly enough.
Get on that one.
Pretty good job.
Get on that one. Those should be 1 and 2 in your quiver, I think, right?
For what?
Your podcast quiver, just be 1 or 2 on your list. Every time one drops, you should listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah, who needs more than 2 podcasts, Rick?
Some of us do.
Yeah, if I had to leave anybody with anything, it's like that talking about mess. There's just a person on the other end. So when you communicate, whether you're at work or asking for help, recognize that. There's a person on the other end of the keyboard, and we're kind of all in this shit together. So 1, people can help you, and 2, be nice.
There you go. Perfect. And where can people find you if they'd like to follow up?
Adam at gearjunkie.com. At Ruggaby, Ruggaby, on virtually every social platform. Okay. Not TikTok, because I don't get TikTok and I'm a little afraid of it.
Same. I have an account. Yeah, I did make an account because everybody said you gotta figure it out. So I did, but I haven't done a thing on it. So yeah.
Rick, there is no better way to get me not to do something than to continually tell me why I have to do it. It is the surest way to get me to not do something.
I still fall for those related to the podcast about promotion. I fall for those, right? If they tell me, yeah, you got it, your show should be here. I'm like, all right, I'll look. And but I'm not on TikTok yet, so hopefully will never be, but you never know.
Well, I trust you, so if I'm really missing something, let me know. But otherwise, I'll just continue to refrain from all TikToking.
It probably won't happen. Well, Adam, it's been great talking to you. I knew this was going to be a fantastic conversation. Thanks for the time, and I can't wait till we get together again. If you're ever in Bishop.
I would love it, Rick.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll tip a beer and tell some more stories.
Yes, indeed.
Right on.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you'll find show notes with links to everything we talked about and more. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or spread the word and tell a friend about the show. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week. And thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Rick Sayes.